Okay, good evening. Getting started here. Just getting things set up here. I think I have sound. We have the computer. We have the telescope set up. I'm just going to give you a quick view here of what the telescope setup looks like tonight. We have a Celestron C6 set up with a Canon DSLR, advanced GT mount. So this mount will allow us to track the sky, so we can follow instead of having the drifting views that we've had on some of the past nights. It's not. I'm set up on the porch tonight because of the trees filling in with leaves, but so I'm not. Hopefully, the vibration of the porch is not going to be an issue. Just one of the things I have to do here. Sorry, there's some new features in YouTube that are coming up as well. YouTube stream opened up on another tab, so I just want to make sure I don't have that. Okay, so we have the telescope set up. Let me just put a little bit more brightness on the screen. See a little bit. So one thing that I just have to do here while we're running, I just have to make sure that the telescope with the camera is balanced. The tracking will run okay. Okay, so balanced that way. Balance this one off that way. Well, I'm sorry about that. Okay, sticky, but I think it's in good shape here. Okay, so first target, of course, nice and easy. Oh, before I forget though, at 8:41, we have a pass at the International Space Station. You'll want to go outside and check that out. In the meantime, I'm going to try to get the moon in our sights here. All right, now I'm going to turn down the brightness on the screen here. So going on. All right, now bear with me for 1 second while I start the software to run the camera. If I turn the camera on. Utility is starting. Live view is running. Let me just share my screen now so you can see what's going on. I'm just going to share the screen. And here's the live view. Zoomed in view. So there's the moon. I'm just going to adjust this. Rotate the camera to get that one. Okay, so it's a little bit more like what we've got tonight. Let me adjust our location, get this centered. And there we go, there's the moon tonight. Now with this set up, we can take pictures and whatnot. Let's just try things out of the way here. Control for the camera. Separate window here. Here we go. Okay. Control. Adjust the exposure. Okay. Much. Closer view here. Here we go. Current view of the moon. And then even a little bit farther here, maybe we can get any better focus than that. Very well focused. Now, of course, what you're seeing is that it's still early in the evening, so there's a lot of convection currents in the atmosphere. And that's what's causing this to get a little blurry, but you can really see the mountains. And craters along what's called the terminator here, the boundary where sunrise is happening on the moon. And drift a little bit here and you can take in some of the sights. Some long ridge lines. Oh, and here comes the space station. should be passing just south of the moon, or just below the moon, sorry, and to the left of the moon across the sky. It will be to the south, but it should be heading almost directly straight overhead. Oh, there it is. Fortunately, I can't get it in the telescope. It moves too fast. But if you happen to be outside right now, you can, actually a few minutes ago, I don't know what the live stream delay is on today's session, but it's on its way passing straight overhead. Okay, back to the moon, although it's still passing over. If you're, we still have a few more minutes that it's passing over. It's in the trees though, in my backyard. Okay, just taking a second here to tour some of the features, some of the craters that we've got here. Now, one thing we can do, zoom back out a little bit here. And we can zoom back in. So the nice thing about this time of the lunar cycle is that you can see a lot more of the craters and everything, because you can see the shadows that they cast along the surface. Like the mountains here. They cast a shadow on the surface as the sun rises in this section of the moon. Oh wait, I can make this. Oh no, I can't. Sorry. Still getting a little familiar with the software. Let me actually go back to this view for a second, because I would like to take some pictures. Washed out. Increase the exposure there. Make sure I have full detail. We don't want auto ISO. Let's change this. Sorry, I think my laptop here is on an uneven surface. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna have to increase the exposure a little bit again. Looks like we're still a little excuse me, a little overexposed. That. So there's the moon tonight. Okay, doesn't seem to give me the option to zoom in on the pictures. Excuse me. Still zoom in a little bit here. Increase exposure a little bit. And check out some more details here. Okay, go ahead. This direction here. Take a look at some of these bright lunar highlands. Now, one thing that could be an option, excuse me, one thing that could be an option is to what some amateur astronomers do, well, not really professional astronomers, but a good way to get very good pictures of the moon or the planets is you take a video at high resolution and at high speed, and you can get rid of these effects, this waviness in the picture. You can get rid of that because for brief fractions of a second, the view is actually very clear. The camera that I have right now won't allow that, but it only allows really still pictures, not really high enough speed for video. Oh, over here, here's a nice view. If we look here, you can see where the farther rims of these craters are high above the local surface there. And you can see how they're catching the sunrise much earlier than down below in the depths of the craters there. I'm seeing some of the motion caused by me stepping on the deck here. I'll work on the focus a little bit here. You can see still further into the shadows there. If I adjust this just right, you can see there are a few mountains there on the left of the view. They're just barely catching sunrise on the moon right now. I'm going to go back over this one. You can just barely see that. Now, what we can do, I don't go quite that far. Okay, that's too far. I'm not going to be able to in real time, but what I can do is take a longer exposure and what we can see there. You may be able to see the earth glow, earth shine video view can't quite replicate it. There we go. Okay. Let me just take another picture here now that it's centered. I'm going to bump the ISO a little bit more. Up. There we go. So now if we look here, now it's very overexposed, but on the left-hand side there, you can see the dark side of the moon is actually lit by the reflection of sunlight off of the Earth, the way you might see, a field lit up at night, particularly in the wintertime when the snow is all lit by a very bright full moon. This on the dark side of the moon, because it's literally dark right now, the dark side of the moon is actually lit up by the shine of the Earth at its night. The Earth, of course, is quite a bit larger than the moon, and it's also quite a lot more reflective, believe it or not, than the moon. So actually, the moon would see a lot of light, see a lot more light at night than we see from the moon, actually. Even though it seems like it's pretty bright. All right, let's see here. We'll go back to, I'm going to turn this off for a second. I'm just going to switch gears here for a minute. Try to go back to, actually, no, give me 1 second. I'm going to go back to vivid mode and look at parts. Of course, there's always a trade-off, right? Because the brightest parts of the moon, right, you can see they're overexposed. Now you can see some of the details here in these various shades of gray in some of the areas, but now we can't see all the stuff that's in the sunrise. This is where the sun is rising on the moon. So there's always trade-offs in photography, exposure and focal ratio and whatnot. In this case, this telescope is actually set up. It's an f6.3. It's a 6.3 focal ratio with a diameter. It's 150 millimeters. It has a focal reducer on it, so it's at about 1,000 millimeter focal length right now. If you're into camera gear, without the focal reducer, it's a 1,500 millimeter lens. Here, let me try to take a little bit of a tour here over the surface. Meanwhile, while I'm doing that, I'm also going to try to see what else I can find tonight. With this setup, I might be able to with this setup, I may be able to get some other objects, some deep sky objects. One of the other things I'm trying to keep track of also is that as the telescope cools, right, the parts of the telescope change their shape due to the thermal contraction. And so the focus might change over the course of the night here, so I might have to keep adjusting the focus. And I'll try to give you some more views here of various craters. I really do. I still haven't quite had the time to study all the lunar features. Definitely don't have any of these memorized. Any of these craters or these ridge lines here. Um, of course, there's an app for that, so I'm just opening up my astronomy app. This particular telescope is computerized, but in order to set it up to find other objects, it has to be aligned with a couple of stars. And unfortunately, uh, in my backyard, there are not many stars to align with all the trees around. I just have one view um, towards the moon, maybe 10% of the sky at best. As you can see, even the moon provides some great views here. Oh, another thing, actually, I didn't include this on the YouTube descriptor. But if any of my students wanted to ask me any questions, I do have my phone here, so I can answer any emails. Over here. Now, one thing that's interesting about these craters as you get close to the North and the South Pole of the moon is that some of these craters are speculated to perhaps have water ice in them, because if you get close enough to the poles, some of these craters are deep enough that there are some locations that do not get any sunlight, like ever. And so there would be areas inside of these craters that would be able to hold water ice for long periods of time. Oh, excellent. Okay. How this will work, but Mars is up. Unfortunately, the Earth is moving away from Mars right now. Mars is almost as far away as it's going to get. If you wanted to see it, if you do go outside, or if you're outside right now, um, if you look at the direction the moon is facing, the sunlit side of the moon, there are two stars to the right, not too far to the right. Those are Castor and Pollux from the constellation Gemini. making a long, I guess, isosceles triangle with Castor and Pollux right now is Mars. If you look to the left of the moon, on the dark side, the side that's not lit by the sun, you should be able to see the constellation Leo starting to come out now. It's getting dark enough to see Leo. Okay, let me get out of this mode for 1 second. I'll see if I can see Mars. It's very low and very far away, so it's going to be very small and kind of dim and probably very wobbly, but we'll see what we can see. Okay, that should be close enough. I just have to maybe increase, I will probably have to increase my exposure here. That little star there, that's Mars. Just give me a second to adjust the location. It's much better if it's in the center of the field of view here, so I'm going to just make some adjustments. Like I said, Mars right now is very small. Unfortunately, the rest of the planets, Mercury is very small and not visible from this part of my backyard. Jupiter and Saturn look fantastic. Unfortunately, they don't rise until about 4 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 maybe at best. So that's not going to happen anytime soon. But in the fall, they'll be back in full view. Okay, so right now, okay, that's just a spot on the camera. Okay, so that's Mars right there. Now with this exposure, Mars is kind of washed out. You can see it kind of wobbling around there. We will move down the exposure a little bit. Not a lot to see there, huh? But I assure you that is the planet Mars. You can maybe you can see some of the redness to it. Okay, here you can see if we zoom out, sorry, if we go out of focus, you can see one of the peculiarities of this type of telescope. So there's a center mirror on this. That's why there's that donut shape to it. The light is actually coming in through a donut shaped ring around the telescope. And that right there is about the closest we can get. Unfortunately, I can't make the view zoom in much more than that. And even if I could, it wouldn't really look like much. Actually, there might be one thing I can do. Let me give it a try. It's either going to work or It caused me to lose the view altogether. 1 second. Focal reducer on here, so I'm trying to go from 1,000 millimeter focal length to 1,500 millimeter focal length. One difficulty with this is that now of course, changing the focus length of the telescope changes the focus of the telescope. I'm going to overexpose this a little bit. Mars. Oh, I think it's over there on the side now. Let's see if we can. That's normal. Okay, here's what we'll try to do. Try to go back to the moon for a second so we can get some focus. Let's see if we can come back to Mars. Again, I don't know if all this is going to be worth it for the view, but I'll give it a try. So now with a 1,000 millimeter focal length, 1,500 millimeter focal length, see how far out of focus the moon is here, but now the moon is going to fill a bigger portion of the screen. Just about filling this view. And when I put the camera back on the telescope, of course, it's not quite in the same orientation that it was before. And so now it's not quite in the same orientation that the telescope actually moves in, but we can adjust that. We'll get a little bit more of a view like this. We can adjust our exposure again. And we'll try to get some views of the moon here this way. Not quite sure why that edge seems to be blurry. Sorry, everything is like upside down and backwards now. 1 second. Might have been a good idea. Snap a picture. This is a picture at 1,500 millimeter focal length. Get this recentered in the camera. Maybe that's why it's kind of towards the edge of the view there. Go. There's a little bit closer view of the moon. So in theory, with deep sky objects visible right now, we'd be able to take pictures of those as well. Unfortunately, I think I'm a little bit limited by my view of the sky. I'm going to increase the exposure. I can see if I can go back to Mars now. Increased exposure. I'm going to have to reorient the camera again because I think it's going to be much easier if the camera is lined up a bit better with the axes of the telescope. Give this one more try. Okay, there's Mars. Much better. A lot easier to deal with when left, right, up and down are in the same direction that you're used to. Okay, let's see if we can zoom in on Mars with this. Length. Okay, it's a little bit bigger. Not by much though. Our exposure time. So unfortunately, Mars is kind of a blurry mess. Too much atmosphere and too much distance between us. Okay, I'm gonna try something else though now. And the live view mode for a second. Oh, the camera's gone. Sure. Okay. Replace some of the equipment here on the telescope. Just give me a few more seconds here. So let me try let's see if I can do just the camera itself. One second here. Just need to stop sharing for 1 second while I get the app started again. Okay, everything's connecting. sharing my screen. See the moon there. Just 1 second. Adjust the lenses here. Problem right now is that it is down. Telescope oriented. But let's zoom in on the moon here. Hold on 1 second. Try to actually zoom in on the moon here. Okay, so this is just with a wide-angle lens attached to the camera. Just going to try to use this to get a good focus. And it looks like we're getting close to some of the tree branches over here. Let's take a look, see what happens. Okay, it's not quite a long enough amount of time. I have 5-second exposure. Okay, there we go. Actually, let's zoom out here so we can kind of slightly see a little bit more of the sky here. Let's see if I can reorient this a little bit. It's a little difficult because the telescope is kind of mandating which direction I'm pointing. And like I said, it's upside down currently. But we should still be able to see. Should be able to see a decent part of the sky here. Okay, there we go. So that's the moon. The moon here. So the trees in my backyard, that's Castor and Pollux right there, and that's Mars underneath them. Upwards a little bit more here. And we'll go maybe 10 seconds. Okay, so there's a 10-second view of the sky. Actually, it looks like I think I'm getting part of Leo over here at the top. So the horizon is this way. I don't know if you can see these power lines. That's the horizontal. We're quite askew here. And there's a little bit of a lens flare here from the moon, the brightness of the moon over such a long exposure. But again, you can still see Castor and Pollux here, and Mars beneath them. And like I said, some of the stars of the constellation Leo. Now, again, I'm taking these pictures from my porch, so any movement that I'm making is probably showing up in these exposures. If I could zoom in any further, you might be able to see that, but I think at this view, you're not. It's probably not a big deal. I'm going to try to change the telescope orientation and see if we can see. Can I go? Which way can I go? I can't change the orientation of the camera. I would like to. Okay, but what I can do is, I think I can point towards another constellation over here. Let's see what we can see over here. Moving now. Okay, so here's Castor and Pollux here again. I think this is part of the Big Dipper in that direction. I'm just going to stop sharing here for a second. Double check. All right, I'm going to switch back into the live view here. Let me stop the live view for a second so I can get a little different orientation here. we're gonna look. Oh. Okay. Bear with me for a second. I think we got a slight view of Leo, at least the front of Leo. Okay, I'm gonna 15-second exposure. If I can stay still. Let's see what happened there. Okay, so these are a few of the stars of Leo here. Not much to look at in this view since, of course, I'm pretty close to Boston here and have these trees in the way. But just a little bit of view of some of the stars that are out tonight. So let's see here. 1 second. We're getting up to 9:30. Let me just check one thing here. Okay, so I'm going to share with you my video and I'll start sharing my screen. Here's a web app called Stellarium, which lets you view the sky from wherever you are. You can activate the constellation. So here's the view to the west right now. You can see the view of the moon. You can see this is the part of Leo. Excuse me. This is the part of the Leo that we can see just beyond the trees. Oh, there it is. Of course. So you can see that there's a, here in the constellation Cancer, there's a star cluster, which would look beautiful right now, except for the fact that the moon and that star cluster are right behind the trees from where I am. So that's not going to quite work. Constellation Gemini, you can see, sorry, that's not what I wanted. I don't want the art. Oh, because Gemini is selected. Sorry. What I can't do apparently is select Mars, which is right here in the middle of the name Gemini. All right, that seems to be a bug in their software. This usually works pretty well. Anyway, that's Mars right there. There's the moon in Cancer. And the satellite passing by right now. Not necessarily visible to the naked eye. Turn off the atmosphere for now just to make this nice and dark. Not really showing many deep sky objects for some reason. So in Leo, although again this part of Leo is in the trees for me, there is an asteroid called Vesta, which is one of the bigger asteroids. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get that one either. That would probably actually come out in just the camera view. All right, so that looks like look, let me finish sharing this here for a second. Okay, so that's let's see. Oh, sorry, too far out. So that was a view that I had for tonight. Was it's to the west, this small area to the west. If you have a fuller view of the sky straight overhead tonight, is the Big Dipper. Arcturus would be one of the brightest stars high overhead tonight. Arcturus is lost in the trees for me right now. Regulus here in Leo, that's the brightest star to the left of the moon, which the moon is heading towards over the next couple nights. Let's see here, Hercules. Oh, Hercules, of course, Hercules is totally in the trees for me, but there are several nice globular clusters in Hercules. Let's see if we can see those another night. Let's see here, one of the recognizable constellations, Cassiopeia, is very low to the northern horizon right now, so it's not a great view right now. Some of the summer constellations are starting to come up. Virgo, this looks like the this is Scorpio over here, just peeking over the horizon to the south. It'd be pretty difficult to see this time of day. Much later in the night, it'll be up nice and high in the sky. All right, so that's all for now. The next live stream session will possibly be June 10th at sunrise. There's a partial solar eclipse, June 10th, visible from our area. So that might be the next time that we stream live. I might be able to do one more nighttime view. We'll see how schedules work out and everything at the end of this year. And with that, I think I'll be signing off. I hope you all enjoyed. Hope that worked out well. Hope everyone could see everything. Have a good night. Take care.